All right. So in the martial arts community, there's a strong debate on which is the best martial art. A lot of people say that it's boxing. A lot of people say it's wrestling. A lot of people like to say it's judo. But in this video, I'm going to explain to you why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the best martial art. And when I say Jiu-Jitsu, I mean Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not the Japanese bullshit that you see. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the ground stuff, the ground submission and grappling. So I've trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 2.5 years now. I've also dabbled in all of the other martial arts, the major ones. So I've done a bit of boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing. I've done a bit of wrestling as well. So I'm familiar with all the martial arts. I feel like I can give a valid argument for why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the best. Just a quick disclaimer, this is just my opinion. I don't want any keyboard warriors commenting hateful shit in the comments. But if you do, I don't really care, because I don't. Alright, if I'm going to be honest, if I'm actually going to explain the benefits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this video will actually be like 2 hours long. Like, I'm not even joking. If I really go into depth and in detail of all the benefits of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it would be like an hour or 2 hours. It would be like a podcast almost. So I'm going to try my best to put all the benefits into less than 10-15 minutes. So the main benefit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is you will always, no matter where you are in your journey, white belt, blue belt, purple, brown, black, you'll always be learning. You'll always feel like a student. Many black belts who get their black belt after training for 10-15 years still feel and still say to themselves that I still feel like a white belt. There's actually a video of this grandmaster black belt. He lines up like I don't know how much, but he lands about like a dozen black belts, and he rolls with them, and he just taps them all out.
And then he would line them up and roll with them.
Just smash them.
One after another. And these guys would wait. So they'd be warming up and stretching out, and they'd watch him go to town with these assassins. So you go, oh, I'm fifth. Maybe I'll have a chance. Maybe he'll be tired. He never gets tired because he never puts in any effort.
He taps out black belts who've been training for 10 years. Imagine what those black belts were feeling when they rolled with him. They must have felt like absolute beginners, but they've been training for like 10 years. I think it might have been Renzo Gracie or one of the Gracies that rolled with a dozen black belts. Because of this constant learning, you'll always feel hooked onto the sport. You'll always feel like you have something new to learn. There's always like a sweep or a submission or a certain position in Jiu-Jitsu where you're not the best at, and that keeps you addicted and hooked. It's basically like human chess. Whoever has more knowledge in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will win the fight. Every now and again, I feel like I know a certain position. So for example, De La Riva is like a guard in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, and my coach will teach the class again, and there's always something that I pick up on. It's always the smaller details that make the biggest difference in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Even just like, for example, holding the collar a bit higher can change the entire outcome of your game, your entire outcome of playing De La Riva. It's usually the smaller micro adjustments that make the biggest changes. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, although it does have its flaws, it is one of the martial arts, the belt martial arts, which actually is taken seriously. To get a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as I said before, can take 10 to 15 years. Some black belts even take 20 years to get their black belt. But unlike Taekwondo or kickboxing, you get your black belt in like 3 years, and it's like, okay, you're done. Or even karate. Like, I'll just show a picture right now, yeah? You show a picture of all the black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I show you all the picture of black belts in karate, and it's like they are real black belts, and these black belts are just like taxi drivers and teachers and fucking McDonald's workers, and they get their black belts by training Taekwondo every Tuesday and Wednesday, while these black belts have been training for like 10-15 years, putting like every day onto the mats. So these are real black belts. These black belts, I don't know, you just look at them, you can see the difference. You can see like what's actually taken seriously. It is not repetitive. I feel like with a lot of the striking sports, especially boxing, it's fucking repetitive. I remember when I used to box, right? I was very naive. I used to think, yeah, boxing is a real man sport. I mean, you're using your fist. It's more manly, for example. I used to think. But when I transitioned to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, man, I realized how fucking boring boxing was. It's so fucking repetitive. Like, your session could be, you start the session and then you do your warm-up and then you just hit the bags like for a long fucking time. You hit the bag for like half an hour, then you like do some skipping, you might hit the pads with the coach, you might do some sparring if you're a bit high level, and then you end the day. You do that again and again and again, you're just hitting the pads. There's no fucking like enjoyment really. I'm not saying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is easy. That's one thing I do not want you guys to take away from this video. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a fucking hard sport. There's a reason why it takes 10 years to get black belt. A lot of people quit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at blue belt. It's called blue belt blues because that's when it gets actually hard. But what I don't want you guys to take away from this video is, oh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is easy, I'm gonna do it now because it's fun and it's enjoyable. No, it's fucking hard. And it gets really hard when you get to blue belt. White belt is fun. When you get to blue belt, you realize how fucking hard it is. But at the same time, it's very enjoyable. It's very addictive. Sometimes you're gonna quit. Sometimes you want to quit. I'm not gonna lie. There's so many times where I want to quit. I'm like, fuck this sport. I'm going back to boxing because that's why I originally started. But every time I come back home after like a day or two, I get that itch to go again. I get that fucking drive and addiction to go again. Boxing is just like, yep, I'm just gonna hit the bags, I'm just gonna do this, I'm just gonna skip for a bit. You know what to expect. Every day is different in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But yeah, so like a couple of months ago, my gym was actually closed. I think it was like the bank holiday, I'm not entirely sure. But I basically went back to my old boxing gym. I went there, we did the warm-ups, and then, you know, the coach said, okay, find a bag, do some skipping, do whatever you want basically. And then I started hitting the bags, and after like 3-4 rounds, I got so fucking bored. Like, how can people who just box find it enjoying? I don't know, it's just kind of repetitive. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like, there's so much stuff to learn. But yeah, after like 30 minutes, I got fucking so bored. I'm like, I just want to go home. Another major benefit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it accustoms to all types of people, especially older people. With the striking sports, you can only compete for so long. You can only compete, let's say boxing, until you're like 40. Once you get past 40, you just don't want to take that brain damage. You don't want to take that CTE and concussions anymore. But with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not only can you spar, you can actually compete when you're older. Yes, I'm not saying your body won't feel anything. Yes, you'll feel achy, you might snap a knee, you might fuck up your ankle. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. That's going to happen to everybody. But with old people, they can keep the most important thing healthy, and that's their brain. They can have an enjoyment of sparring, and a lot of old people compete. And guess what? They compete with people their age and their weight. In boxing and striking, there's no age limit. Let's say you're a 40-year-old male and want to fight in boxing. You could fight a guy 20 years younger than you who's also the same weight. That's not fair. But in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when you do a competition as an older guy, you can fight someone who is 40 years old and also 60 kilograms. It's quite fair in that regard, and you can compete and you can go out there and test yourself. You can still have the enjoyment of competing and also training at the same time. A recent video which really warmed my heart that I saw, it was a black belt. His name is Andre Galvao, really successful and famous black belt. And he's talking about this student who's an older guy, how he came into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like helped him and how he made him not lonely anymore. I'll just play for you right now.
Jiu-Jitsu really like help people, you know. People who has no confidence, they start to get confident. Old man like 50 years old was really sad, like doing nothing, like get a divorce, and then he started training Jiu-Jitsu, and then he started to like have like a emotion again, you know what I mean? So Jiu-Jitsu is amazing. I believe like Jiu-Jitsu is good for any age, anybody.
How does that make you feel after watching that? It just gives you that motivation to do something which is like a bit unique. It just gives you that motivation to maybe try BJJ. So with the sparring in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is nowhere near as worse as some of the striking sports. When I used to box, when I used to spar as well, after every sparring session, I would always feel my head so dizzy, and I probably was concussed. I didn't know. But there's been so many times where I've sparred in boxing and I've been knocked down, I've been knocked out. Yes, sometimes I've been knocked out in boxing, in the sparring, and my head would just feel so concussed. Like everything would be spinning. I get home, I'd be vomiting on the fucking sink. Like it was not fun at all, not pleasant at all. And like a deep thought came into my mind, like, how the fuck am I gonna be when I'm like 30, 40 years old? How the fuck am I gonna able to think for myself, and how's my brain gonna even feel when I'm at that age? But when I transitioned to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when you roll and you get tapped out, guess what? Guess what I found out? You just go again. How fucking beautiful is that? So you could roll with like like you can have a 5-minute roll. So a roll is basically like a sparring in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So you can roll, and then when you get tapped out, when you get bested, you go again, and then you get tapped out again, and you go again, and you can go again, and you can go again, and you can go again. There's no such thing as getting tapped out and then, okay, you can't do it anymore. You have to wait for a bit, you have to vomit for a bit, you have to feel dizzy for a bit. No. When you box, when you get knocked down in sparring, the sparring is done. You have to deal with the effects of the sparring afterwards. But in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you get tapped out, just go again. Just go again and go again. And by that, you learn so much. You learn why did you get tapped out, how you got tapped out, and you can roll with the same person for like 5 minutes, and you can get tapped out like 20 times. The next time you get tapped out about 19 times. Next time get tapped out 15 times. And after every sparring session that I did when I got knocked out or knocked down, I felt like absolute fucking shit afterwards. Like, it's not good for you. I don't know why people just willingly get their brain fucking smashed up. But after every sparring in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, well, most of my spars in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I feel fucking amazing. Like, I hit that submission, or I hit that sweep that I've been learning, or I finally beat the guy who tapped me out 20 times last week. Like, it really motivates you and keeps your morale really high. You feel better after sparring, you don't feel worse. That's what I've noticed in boxing. I felt fucking shit afterwards. I was vomiting, and I'm so fucking grateful I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like, if I did not start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I would still be fucking concussed. And if I kept on going when I was like until at 40, I'd probably be fucking dead. I don't even know. I'm like thankful to God that I made that transition. And that's why I'm making this video right now. Because I'm speaking to people who are thinking about starting boxing or kickboxing, and they don't know, like, they're not much educated about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm trying to convince them guys because the concussion isn't worth it. Now, obviously, if you're trying to do MMA, if you want to do MMA, if you want to maybe be professional in boxing, whatever, of course you're gonna have to learn that. Like, that's a no-brainer. You have to learn a striking sport to start MMA. But if you're just a hobbyist, or you want to just do one martial art, I want you to listen to this video quite carefully, because the decision you make will impact your future, like, life. It sounds a bit mad, but in boxing you are getting your brain mashed up, and that might get you more susceptible to like schizophrenia or like Alzheimer's and all that shit. Look at boxers now, like at 60, at 50 years old. A majority of boxers are brain dead.
To get your bodies into the shape that's required to go at each other.
Not with me. I mean, I've only been off for a year and a half. I'm only 43 years old. I'm an old mature. I mean, I matured old. Very fast, but at the same time, my body hasn't matured great, just because of my father's really old. My father's 80 years old. My grandmother's 100 years old. Mm-hmm. So,
like, I know boxers. My coach, for example, he had to stop boxing at 30 because he kept forgetting stuff, and he actually had Alzheimer's. So he stopped sparring and he couldn't compete at all. Then he just went on to become a coach. All right, so I've talked about a lot of the striking sports. I've not really touched on judo and wrestling. Now, how can I explain this? BJJ, you can do judo and you can wrestle, okay? But in wrestling, you can't do BJJ. Let me just rephrase that. In BJJ, in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fight, you start standing. So when you start standing, you can do judo, you can do wrestling, you can wrestle in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But the only difference is the pointing system and the scoring system. In wrestling, if you go on your back, you've lost the fight, or you've lost the match. But in BJJ, if you go on your back, that's actually the game. As well as judo, if your back touches the floor, you've lost. But in BJJ, if your back touches the floor, the fight carries on. You can do judo in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You can wrestle. My main style has wrestling in it as well. When I train BJJ, I do wrestle, and you see a lot of people in BJJ matches doing hip throws and what they call gujigatamis or kesigatamis, all those things. So it's not like you can't do judo in BJJ, you can do it. Wrestling and BJJ are both like grappling, but I feel like wrestling is not as fun because they're quite similar, but BJJ has that spicy element of submissions. There's no submissions in wrestling. You just gotta take the guy down. Obviously, it's fucking hard to do that, but you take the guy down, you pin him, and then you've won the round or you've won the match. But in BJJ, you can take the guy down, you can pin him, but then you can also go for submissions as well. So having submissions makes it so much more fun, because you can like take the guy down, throw up a submission, and then lose a submission, and he can fucking pin you, and then he can throw up a submission. Submissions make it a lot more entertaining, a lot more spicy, if you could say. Also great for self-defense as well. If you know some submissions for self-defense is quite good for you as well. Like I said before, when you're training BJJ, whoever has more knowledge will win the fight. That goes the same for smaller people. So if a smaller guy is rolling with a slightly bigger guy, not crazy difference, let's say 20 kilograms, right? That's how I roll with people, 20 kilograms, 30 kilograms bigger than me. But whoever has the most knowledge of BJJ will win the fight, 100%. That's why it's a sport where smaller people can actually do and actually get success. I'm speaking from experience. There's actually a quote on my gym's wall. It says something along like, if the king of the jungle was the biggest animal, then the elephant would be the king of the jungle. Something like that. I know I like said it stupid, but something like that. And you see like Mikey Musumeci, for example, fighting that big fat guy. You see like Demetrius Johnson fighting that big ass brown belt, and Demetrius Johnson winning as well. So it's a sport where the smaller guy, if he doesn't know more jiu-jitsu, will always win. That's not the same for like boxing or Muay Thai. If you're like 20 kilograms smaller, that's going to be like, you're going to feel it, and you're going to feel it very hard. Another benefit, yes, there's more benefits. Another benefit about BJJ is the social life. Not only do you improve your martial arts skills and your ability to tap someone out and beat them on the ground, I also improved my social skills in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I used BJJ to improve my mumbling. I used BJJ to get better at being social, because I was quite an introverted person, and when I started BJJ I became more sociable in like groups and being able to talk to someone. In a sport like boxing or striking, when I used to box, bro, I didn't speak to fucking anyone. No one spoke to me. No one, like, obviously the coaches spoke to you, but like boxing is a very, very lonely sport, and some people like to be lonely and some people like to be fucking miserable. But in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like everybody, majority of people are up, like the most nicest people you can ever meet. You have conversations with everybody, you get to know everybody, you get to know the people that you're sparring with and rolling with and spending like hours on the mats. When I used to box, like I only made like one friend, and I was actively like talking to people, trying to like make some connection with people. But it's a different environment and a different community with boxing, and like some gyms like Muay Thai gyms and stuff like that. Everybody's like quiet. The gym that I went to, everybody was quiet, stone cold face, like everybody almost had like a resting bitch face. And I guess that suits the sport. Like, boxing is a tough sport, it's not an easy sport, so nobody's going to be like laughing and smiling and dancing, whatever, you know what I mean? But in BJJ, you build out connection and bond with the people that you train with, especially for the sessions. Now, there's a session where it's called open mat in BJJ, and that's a session basically you can do pretty much whatever you want. So the mat is free for everybody. You can drill techniques and moves, you can have a chat, you can spar, you can do exercise, you can pretty much do whatever you want, and the mat's like it's like a free-for-all. And those open mat sessions are like the sessions where I made the closest friends that I've ever had, and I made connections which I never did in boxing. They're honestly sometimes my favorite sessions. Like usually like we stretch at the beginning, then we spar, and then after everybody's sparred and tired, we like sit in the corner and have a chat, and we all leave like laughing, cracking jokes, giggling, like just having banter. It's honestly one of the best things out of my day doing is going to an open mat. And I would go home like writing that in my gratitude journal, like I'm grateful for the open mat I had today, because I feel awesome after doing a session like that. And when you get to a higher belt, so I'm not a high belt, I'm like a blue belt, which is above white belt. You get a lot of like white belts asking you how you do this and how to do that, and you almost feel important because you're teaching the newer belts like some small moves and techniques. Obviously you're not black belts, you're not gonna go over everything, but you feel really like respected, and the white belts show you some bit of respect, like this guy told me this and this guy told me that. and then you feel like you're important now. You almost feel like a teacher, and it's amazing to see the newer white belts that you taught get better and better and better, and eventually you're the same belt, and then you keep on training and you build that relationship and you get stronger and stronger and stronger over time. And the last benefit, which I'm going to talk about in this video, is it's great for kids. Like I don't need to explain it. Like I'm pretty sure you've all seen Joe Rogan talk about it. Here it is.
4 and 6 right now. Put your kids into jiu-jitsu. It will change your kids' lives and give them a level of confidence. Here's my thing with traditional sports. Soccer, basketball, it's fun. You learn some team stuff. You do it to a certain point. You put them in jiu-jitsu, they'll have that for the rest of their life. Forever. Yeah. Till the day they die, they'll have that jiu-jitsu in their back pocket. Here's the thing. In jiu-jitsu, it's not about strength or power, and it's about technique. A little girl, I could bring in a 16-year-old girl that'll wrap you two in pretzels, okay? And it's not about how strong you are, it's about the technique. They can put you to sleep. They can do a lot of things to you that would ruin your entire life. You'd be like, holy shit. Neither one of you have ever done jiu-jitsu, huh?
No.
It's what changed my life.
All right, that's the end of the video. Thank everybody who has stuck this far in the video. I know this video is quite long, but the benefits are quite a lot in BJJ. One thing I want to say before I end the video is I don't want you to leave this video thinking BJJ is an easy sport. It's a fucking hard sport. You're literally slapping each other's arms and limbs, and your body will feel fucked. After all the points I mentioned, you still feel like you don't want to do BJJ, you feel like you want to do MMA or you want to do a striking or something else, just start. Like, even though I've said all the points in my video, that doesn't mean striking sports are bad or don't start at all. If you feel like you're more of a striker, do it. Don't overthink it. Just go to a gym, start, and you might end up changing down the line, or you might be sticking with it forever. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're doing something that 99% of people aren't doing, you'll be okay.